about. Basically, if you don't know the story, King Arthur is a peasant until a stone shows up, and in the stone is a sword. The sword says, "Whoever pulls the sword from the stone will be king of Camelot." Many try, but in the end only Arthur can pull it out, and he becomes king. Arthur makes the kingdom great, and that's basically the story. Believe it or not, there is some truth to it. We know that King Arthur may have been a real person, and we know that if he was, he would have lived in the 5th century. Keep that in mind going forward. Other than that, we really know nothing about the real King Arthur, and the earliest mentions of him are a staggering 300 years later in the 8th century. Okay, I guess we can put that aside because it was the Dark Ages and not much was written down during that time. But today, it is mostly agreed that there may have been a person to inspire the myth. Now that we have covered the comparisons, here are some discrepancies that I have with the original story. As we all know, King Arthur lived in Castle Camelot. But wait, does anyone else find that weird? This story took place in England or Wales in the 5th century. It is most decisively impossible for Arthur to have a castle in England in the 5th century. Castles were brought to the British Isles as a result of the Normans in the 10th to 11th centuries. They were used to control conquered land, and before that, the English and Welsh didn't have any castles. They had wooden forts, sure, but no castles. In fact, many of the early Britons could not comprehend how someone could build a building as big as the remnants of the Roman buildings, and some even said that giants built them. And if none of that could convince you that it's impossible for King Arthur to have a castle and be real, many archaeologists speculate that the castle would have been Winchester Castle or Cadbury Castle. But the thing is, these were both made in the 10th century, about 500 years after King Arthur. That is why, in my somewhat educated opinion, it is impossible for King Arthur to have been a real person.